Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony for Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are finally looking at the S.H Figuarts Cooler Final Form from Dragon Ball Z. It was stuck in shipping. You guys know all about that. I'm sure plenty of you are dealing with this. Lots of stuff is getting stuck in the docks, taking forever to ship, and on top of that, it's taking forever to even get to the warehouses before it can even take forever to ship. In some cases, some people are lucky and getting stuff quick, some people are not. Unfortunately, I was one of the nots with this guy, but we do finally have him, and there is a lot to talk about. There's a lot of really good stuff, and some stuff that's not great, but all in all, it's a pretty solid release, so I think you guys are going to enjoy this video. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. Now, before we get into the review, I do want to mention, as I talked about in one of the other recent videos, this is one that's made in Vietnam, not made in China. Now, I didn't say, and some people seem to take great offense to this, I don't know why, I didn't say every single figure that comes out of the Vietnamese factory is going to be subpar. That does tend to be a trend, though. We saw it a lot with the Transformers when they started producing those in Vietnam, and now we're seeing it on and off, at least, with the Bandai figures, the Spirits figures, any of the Tamashii Nations figures that are made in Vietnam. They tend to have a higher likelihood of lower quality control. That's all there is to it. It's a newer factory, it's less experienced, who knows why, what other reasons than that, other than it's happening. That's all we can say. So you can take offense to it if you want to, you can defend it no matter what if you want to, but it is observable. Like, it's not, I didn't make that up, that's a thing that's happening. Parts are breaking easier on figures made in Vietnam. There's all kinds of stuff. The list goes on and on and on. This one, however, does have a lot of good stuff going on here, so we'll see. I mean, it's not like they have to be bad, so let's see what happens. Let's go through it. And also, I want to note, quality control issues don't have to be across every single figure. A lot of people said, well, my Super Saiyan 4 Goku doesn't have loose ankles, so that's not a thing. Well, mine did. So it is a thing. It just doesn't, it's not on every single figure. And that's fine, but I have to review what I get. And other people are confirming that they're having the same issues that I'm having, so even if it's half the figures, I have to include it in the review. Okay, so this guy stands, let's say to the top of his purpley blue thing, about 18 centimeters. To the top of his horn thingies, about 20, give or take. And that's going to make him about 7 1/4, and let's just say 8 1/4 inches, right around there. He's got some size to him. We'll do a quick comparison with a standard Goku build. I know it's not the right color scheme, but I think he could be a little bigger. He could use to be a little bigger, but they do tend to skew toward the center. The big guys tend to be a little bit shorter than they should be, and the small guys tend to be a little bigger than they should be. I think this is okay. He does have plenty of bulk, and he does look phenomenal. So before we get into the aesthetics, though, let's go ahead and do a quick question of the day. How many of you were excited to get cooler? How many of you want more of the, I don't want to say obscure, but less included characters, the characters that are not in the show or movies as much? For me, I would love it. I think more variety, the better, especially when they're cool-ass designs like this. Like, I want Janemba. I'll take anybody, really. I want Dabur. I know that's not one of them, but even then, like, I want as much variety as possible in the collection. I don't need 1,000 Gokus and Vegetas. I'll keep buying those too, but I definitely want some stuff like this, and I've always wanted a cooler figure. I love the design here. I think it's amazing, and I think they did a great job recreating it. So let's go ahead and dive into the aesthetic. Number one thing that makes this figure stand out, shading. Okay, maybe number two thing. Number one thing is the sculpt is great. Number two thing is there is shading. Bless you. Thank you. It has really nice shading throughout. It's not like everywhere, it's not the most intricate shading, but you can see it's down the thighs, it's down the shoulders and the biceps. It looks really, really nice. It's not the most, but it just a little bit makes it come to life. It's in the abs, there's a little bit on here. It doesn't look to me like there is actually any on the white, but the way the white is, maybe there is some very, very subtle shading. It's hard to say. Up here, in between the spikes, it does look like there is some, but I think it is actually just shadows. But it looks good. A nice little wash on here, or some very specific paintwork would be nice to get those little carved out lines to turn those black or gray. That would look nice. But you do get the really nice paint job on the head. The face is super clean. I love that. The little dome, that looks really good. There's a little bit of shading on there. It's super glossy. Same thing for the wrists and the legs. Very, very nicely done. It's a very basic design, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't take much, just a touch of shading here and there, and it's going to bring the figure to life. So I am very, very happy about that. And again, the sculpt is great. All the colors match. There's nothing glossy that's not supposed to be. He's a nice matte to satin finish. I think it looks really good. Really, really good. Very pleased with it. The tail doesn't have any shading. I wish it did. I don't love the way they did the tail. It's very thick. It makes it look even thicker because of the way they did the joints. There's not a great way to pose this thing that doesn't make it look weird. Like, it's very sausagey. It's very sausagey. And that's the curve that it needs to have. But it's like it bulges out right here, and there's not a great way to pose it when you're actually looking at it. Best thing you can do is just kind of tuck it away like this and then not look at it from the back, because then it looks fine. But I don't like the tail. I would rather it just be a single sculpt. Like, we don't need that. Just make it a sculpt and put the ball at the ass as much as you can. Having a nubbin and then the ball makes it look weird. I don't like the way they did the tail at all. But luckily it's only the tail and you can just not pay attention to it. But I don't like that, but I do like the rest of it. I think it looks phenomenal. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for the aesthetics. They did a really good job with the sculpt, and the paint is definitely enough to carry it the rest of the way. As far as accessories go, we do get the masked face and the unmasked face. It's technically the whole head, you just replace the top part. Very nicely done. I like both of those a bunch. We do get alternate hands. You have the 2 fist hands, you have 2 pointing finger hands, and then 2 different sets of the open hands, one a little bit more clenched than the other. Then lastly, we do get the standard feet and the clenchy feet, which I like. I think the sculpt work is really good on there. They painted the claws slash nails slash whatever you want to call them. I guess they're not really claws. And that's awesome. The only thing we're missing is a flight stand, and, well, 2 things, and an effect part. So 8 out of 10 for the accessories. We have good accessories here, but we were missing some that would definitely be a welcomed addition. I don't think it's necessary at this price point. This guy didn't cost that much. Oh, that's right, he did. We need more effect parts in our collection. We need effect parts. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. This is where we will run into the QC issues, typically speaking. I haven't noticed a degradation in paint quality in the Vietnamese factory, but I have noticed joint tolerances being a problem. All right, so let's go ahead and see. Let's pop this off for now. Let's see what we have going on here. Hey, it's a double ball peg, the best type of neck joint you can have. So let's see what kind of range we actually get. The neck is also on a ball peg, and that's what's moving mostly, because you don't have a ton of range in the top joint. It doesn't have a ton. It's enough. You can look down, you can look up. We'll go ahead and put this on so you get a better idea of what's actually happening. He can look down, he can look up. Takes a little bit of force, but it does work. They didn't do a bad job. Now, of course, side to side, you're going to be limited by his fin spike thingies, but it's going to be enough. Like, that's what you're going to want. And it does have the ball peg at the top, so you can lean it around. It's just a little stiffer than I would like. That's what she said, but it works just fine. And so I'm okay with that. And then in the neck is a nice stiff ball peg also, so that's good. Now, here's a really unique thing. The way they did the butterfly joint, it feels to me like it's just pegged in, like vertically. There's a peg going through like this somewhere in the torso that lets the whole thing rotate, and that's seemingly how it works. But the shoulder pads here are also on that, and they just swing like this on the butterfly, so they move with the shoulders, and I think that's kind of cool. I don't know if that was necessary. I guess that allows the arm to come farther forward this way, but the chest is so broad it doesn't really help. So I think we might have been better off just maintaining the sculpt of the white connected to the white rather than having it do that and overlapping with the purple. But it does work. I can't really complain. It's not a problem. It just could look a whole lot better and doesn't need to do that. You get a lot of gaps in there too. So I'm not in love with that, but it's okay. It almost feels like it's connected on a ball peg and just has a straight peg up here to hold it in place, kind of. I'm not sure, and it doesn't really matter, I suppose. It works well enough, there's no real problem there. The arm is still connected on a ball peg on top of that butterfly, and we have our standard hinge in there, and again, this will move as much as it needs to, but not a ton, so that's okay. You do get your full rotation, of course. It's a little bit stiff in there, but it's not too bad. Bicep swivel is fine. Double jointed elbow gives you better than 90. I like that. It's not the best looking joint we've ever seen, but it works. And then the wrists are on ball hinges, which are sufficiently sized, so that is good. Now the torso on this guy, I don't think there's a hinge in there. I think it's just a couple of ball pegs again. That's what it feels like, and that's the way I prefer it. I don't like hinges. Anytime you can avoid a ball hinge, you should. Ball pegs get the job done, especially when they're hidden like this. You can just move them around however you want, and he has tons of range. No issues. You get your full rotation, you're leaning. That's as much range as you get out of most Dragon Ball figures, and there's no hinging involved. You can just lean him around and spin him around however you want. I could use it to be a little bit tighter, but it's not loose, so that's okay. I'm very pleased with that. I think it works well and it looks good. No problems at all. For the hips, very floppy. Forward and back, very floppy. They do go up nicely. He can kick. They don't go back too far because he has cheeks and a tail, so that's a bit of a bummer. Going out to the side, I don't notice too much of a looseness issue. Could be tighter, but you do get good range out of that. But going forward is definitely floppy, like almost completely loose forward and back. This one's not as bad on this side, but it's pretty bad. So that to me is an unacceptable quality control issue. They need to fix that sort of thing. These are premium figures. These are premium, so you can't do that. But if that's the only thing we have to deal with, I guess that's okay. Like acceptable in the absolute no choice about it sort of sense. Hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. You can let me know in the comment section below if you get what I'm thinking. It's not good. I guess it is acceptable, but it shouldn't be. Does that make sense? I don't know. I can't think. Alright, so thigh swivel does work. That's no problem. Double jointed knees. Not the best. We do get a little bit of gapping, but it has a good enough range and looks good otherwise, so that's okay. And then we get a ball hinge for the ankle, which works better than most Dragon Ball ankles. Ankle rocker, hinge forward and back, everything works nicely. I think that's an overall really good arrangement of articulation. I guess we could talk about the tail again briefly. We do have the ball hinge here and here. It is very ugly, but you do get a lot of range and it's not loose. So that's okay, but it is definitely an ugly tail. All right, so aside from these hips not being tight enough and then just a little bit of weirdness up here, it's a really solid batch of articulation, especially for the head and the torso. Straight ball pegs is the way to do it, and it works really well, so I'm pleased. I'm still going to go 8 out of 10. The looseness is a problem. He could have got a 9 if the legs weren't loose, but I don't think they're going to be that much of a problem, but it definitely shouldn't be, so I have to include that in the review. It's definitely a problem. I'm okay with it. If you aren't, then that's fully understandable. Like, I'm not okay with it. I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say. I hate that they're loose, but the rest of the figure makes up for it. I guess that's the best way of putting it. I don't know. They need to fix that sort of thing. If the Vietnam thing is going to be a problem as far as loose joints, then that's not a good call for them to be putting new releases in Vietnam. Maybe repaints just to get them off to another factory so they have the room to make new figures. I don't know, but this is definitely a problem. Still, 8 out of 10 for the articulation. Okay, time for a final verdict on this guy. I've been waiting for a cooler figure for a long time, and I'm very satisfied. As a fan, as a collector, and as a reviewer, it's a very nice release. It's fun to pose. It looks really good. Sculpts are good. Paints are good. Accessories are good enough. Articulation's good enough. I'm going to give it an overall rating of 9 out of 10. It's a really strong release. Could have effect parts in a flight stand, of course, and then the looseness is a problem. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot wrong here. It's one of their better releases in a long time, so I'm very pleased with it, and I think you guys will be too. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give it a thumbs down and let me know why in the comment section below. Maybe we can make the video better for you next time. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.